Hey, Rebel Bankers, this is your host, Chris Noggle, and welcome back to the Real Estate Money School. So today I've got a special guest with me. I've got Avery Carl from the ShortTermShop. It's an awesome name, and you're going to hear why it's called the ShortTermShop. This is a very unique technique and a very unique strategy in real estate that we haven't yet had on the podcast. So I'm excited to learn more about this. And I think it's a very nimble strategy that will enable you to kind of get in and out of things and, weather some downturns like we're in right now. But before we get to Avery's story, let's talk about all of you. On your journey to becoming a Rebel Banker, you are all gathering information, gathering knowledge, going out there, learning. Maybe some of you have mentors and coaches, but the most important thing and the biggest guidance and advice I can give you is don't just seek knowledge, apply that knowledge. If you're not applying knowledge, the knowledge you have will just go away. It will never benefit you and you'll never get ahead and never change your life. So remember, on that journey, application of knowledge is more important than the actual knowledge. So Avery, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's tell everybody a little bit about your business, the ShortTermShop, and kind of what you guys do.
Okay, sure. So the ShortTermShop is a real estate team in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, the Destin, Panama City market in Florida, and also the Gulf Shores, Alabama area. We're going to be adding probably 2 to 3 more markets by the end of the year. And what we do is we help investors who are new or seasoned, who are interested in buying short-term rentals. We help them source the property, analyze the properties, and then we also get them set up with all the vendors that they need to be able to manage the properties remotely so that they can maximize their cash flow and not have to pay a manager to do so.
That's awesome. And, so there's a lot more to what you do, but let's tell that story by going back to your beginnings and how this all happened. Because you had mentioned you were in the corporate world, correct?
Correct.
Let's start there. Just tell them, how did this evolve? How did you go from the corporate world to where you're at today? And what did all that look like? And give us the nitty gritty details, the pain points, because that's what everybody's going through right now is a lot of change, a lot of pivoting, a lot of hard times right now for some people. So, did you have any of those hard times coming through this, and how did you excel to get where you're at?
Sure. So my husband and I my husband's still in the music industry. I was a marketing manager in the music industry as well. We moved to Nashville from New York City. And when we went to buy a house, I didn't have my real estate license yet. We went to buy a house to live in. Our realtor was trying to steer us towards this hipster part of Nashville because everybody's places were appreciating so quickly that they were able to make a lot of money selling their houses over a few years. We didn't really want to do that because coming from Brooklyn, we were really tired of neighbors. So we bought a place out in the country. But after a few months, we thought, well, maybe there's something to that. Maybe we should buy a rental house. And we had no idea what we were doing, had listened to no podcasts, no books, nothing. We just thought, oh, cool. Maybe when we have kids one day, we can sell this property and pay for their college. So we bought a place, and thank God it's still our highest performing long-term rental to date. So we got really lucky. Our first one was a really good one. And we thought, maybe we should really dive in and go for this real estate investing thing and not just make it a retirement plan. So maybe we should try to scale our portfolio. So then we started listening to podcasts and reading books and educating ourselves on it. And I was not making very much money all the time. I had I think I was making a $37,000 a year salary. And so we didn't have a ton of capital. And we thought, well, how can we scale this the fastest? And we thought, well, maybe we can do a short-term rental Airbnb thing, but we didn't want to do that in Nashville because the regulations were just really volatile. Still are. They're even worse now. So we thought, well, where can we go that's going to be really safe regulations-wise? So we chose the Smoky Mountains about 3 hours east of Nashville, the Gatlinburg Pigeon Forge area, because it's been the norm there for tourists to rent privately owned properties on an overnight basis since the 70s rather than hotels. So very little hotel presence, and short-term rentals have been a thing since the 70s there. So the regulations are very favorable. The local government figured out how to monetize that years ago. So we got over the regulation hump. And again, didn't really know anybody who was doing that, didn't really have anybody to ask questions of. So we again just took a swing, and it happened to be a really good investment, scaled that to 5 short-term rentals there within that year, and then pivoted. We take all of that heavy cash flow from those and put that into traditional long-term rentals. So we have 28 doors total, 6 of which are short-term rentals. The rest are traditional low-income long-term rentals.
Awesome. So so let's just go back into it a little bit more. When you were doing the short term, like when you're trying to find the way to do this and you decided on the Smoky Mountains and, you're looking at it because you were saying you didn't have a lot of capital, but yet you were still able to do that. So I think we kind of went over like, how did that actually happen? I mean, did you guys self-fund that first rental that you bought in Nashville? And then your next one, did you self-fund that out of your own capital, or did you how did you scale that?
We did. So we scraped together a down payment on the first one. And the cool thing about vacation rentals is there's a type of loan you can get that's a regular Fannie Freddie backed loan called a vacation home loan. You only have to put down 10% instead of 20%. The caveat, though, is you can't put any kind of a contract on it, like a lease or a property management contract. But it specifically says in the Fannie Mae guidelines that you are allowed to Airbnb it yourself when you're not there. So that's the route that we took. It was a lot easier to scrape together 10% and 20%. So we just saved up and pulled the trigger on the first one. And we put the first one in my husband's name only as a vacation home loan because you can only have one per market. And then the second one we put in my name only, so we were able to utilize 10% down payments in the same market within a year. That's a little bit of a gray area now. Fannie's kind of tightening up on that. But what people can do now is there are plenty of other markets when you think about it. Like the other two that we're in are the Gulf Shores, Alabama market and the Destin, Florida, Panama City Beach, Florida markets. Those are also markets where it's been the norm to rent houses for decades rather than hotels. So you can have one vacation home loan per market. So you can buy in 4 or 5 different markets and utilize that 10% every time. So that's how we kind of were able to finance most of ours. Eventually we did start having to put down 20% just because we had to. But that's the strategy that I teach my clients, is to utilize that 10% on the first one. Also to utilize that on the most expensive one that you plan to buy, just because it's half the price or half the down payment. So that's what I teach, and kind of what I strategize is to utilize that 10% down as much as possible.
That's interesting. I follow the Fannie and Freddie models, and I always get these reports showing like, what are the newest products? They always have new products out. And I did see that, where you could buy the vacation homes in your name and do that for 10. I was like, that's interesting, because that's a very low down payment for somebody to get a vacation home. But I never took it that extra step and thought, well, you could own the vacation home and then Airbnb it and make it more of an investment type of use. So that's a smart way to do that. Let's talk a little bit about like what's happening. For those of you watching this right now, we are in the midst of the coronavirus economic crash. And that's probably the only way to say it, because that's exactly what's happening. America's pretty much not able to work. Companies are closing. People are record unemployment charts. I don't know if you guys, when you're seeing this, but if you look at the unemployment numbers, they were kind of bopping around. Then it's literally just a straight line. There's like 6 million people unemployed. So with all of that, a lot of things are changing, and a lot of real estate investors are having to pivot. And Avery, we talked a little bit offline about that pivot and what that looks like. So I think it's important for people to understand this, because if they watch this like in the midst of this, or they're thinking, well, how would that vacation thing work in a time like, the coronavirus crash? So how has this worked? What pivots have you had to make, and how has it affected your business?
Sure. So definitely have taken a significant hit, as everyone has. But we've noticed, so when coronavirus first started getting serious, when they first started kind of doing the safer at home stuff, we did get an initial wave of cancellations, and we thought, oh my gosh, okay, well, guess a good thing we have the cash reserves in place, which is a conversation for another time. But so we're like, okay, we're good. And then about a week later, we started getting a trickling of bookings from people who live in areas that are drivable to these markets, where they live in a small condo, maybe an apartment, and they're sick of being quarantined in a small space, and they would like to just quarantine somewhere else. So we started getting a lot of bookings or some, not a lot, I don't want to be misleading. Started getting some bookings there. So we changed up our listings to make it more attractive to longer term social distancing guests. So we put a list of everything that delivers to all of our locations right on the front of our listings. We took off our minimum and maximum night stays. Some of my clients have made themselves pet friendly where they normally weren't. So anything that you can do to kind of make it more attractive to where people want to social distance at your place, like my place in Destin, it's a 4-bedroom with a private pool. Even though the beaches are closed, we had somebody want to rent for the whole month for a pretty good price because it's big enough for their family. They've got the private pool out back so they can hang out, and it's close to, there's not a lot of, when all the tourists leave at the end of the day in these markets, they're still pretty small towns. So it's not like they have to get on a flight to go there. They have to go to most of them are driving in. They don't have to go to an airport. It's not a big metro area, so not a ton of people that they have to worry about being around, not a hot spot for coronavirus. So we're kind of seeing that our strategy of investing only in drivable vacation rental markets is holding pretty strong right now.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. And I know Destin well. Destin's a beautiful place, but it is like literally you strip the tourists away. It is literally, it's a very small little town, and it's very quaint and safe in times like this. So that makes a ton of sense. Now, one other thing too, you're also a realtor, correct?
Right.
And you're running do you have your own brokerage now that's facilitating a lot of this?
So I have a team. We're actually brokered by EXP, but we have a team and all of my realtors that work for me are also investors in some capacity. So we've got a team in the Smokies, we got a team in Destin, and a team in Gulf Shores. So everybody, it's kind of more of a mentorship program than just real estate agents, even though it doesn't cost any extra. If you use us as your agents in any of those markets, then you have access to all of our tools and learning and mentorship program. Oh,
I see. So you're basically, you're kind of providing more service to your clients through I want to keep saying brokerage, but just through being a realtor. Yeah. Is that the right way to say that? I'm not a realtor. So, okay. So being a realtor, so you're providing extra value for your clients that you're helping find these properties by offering them the mentorship and teaching them how to do what you've done. Is that correct?
Exactly. We teach them exactly how to do it, help them get their listing set up on Airbnb and VRBO, help them get their automation tools set up, and we get them in contact with all the vendors that they need to be able to manage remotely.
And you don't charge extra for that. That's just a service you give for them to use you as their realtor for buying the property?
Right. Value add.
That is awesome, man. Yeah. That is awesome. No, seriously, let me just take a moment on that, folks. You guys, in hard times like this, one of the things people are looking for are companies and people just like Avery here who are doing more and not trying to charge, because nobody really has extra money right now. So they're looking for additional service, additional value, additional things that basically are thrown in there, where that's exactly what she's doing. She's showing people the way to do and build the success she's had, not charging them, just saying, hey, if you use us as your realtor, we'll show you how we've done this. That is phenomenal. And my wife is a realtor, but not a public realtor, just for our own, acquisitions and disposition stuff that we do. But she just got this long email sent from her brokerage that kind of went through all the things somebody should be doing to really stand out in times like this. And guess what? You hit every single one of them with what you're doing there.
Awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. So on this journey of you building this, going full time in real estate, leaving the corporate world and kind of, going out there and building something that not a lot of people really do because they just haven't found the way, and it's just different. I like it. What would be your biggest internal obstacle that you've had to go through during this journey?
Biggest internal is really just my own limiting beliefs of thinking, oh, I can't take this next step. I can't grow it to this next size, or, I never in my wildest dreams when we first bought our first property thought that we'd be at 28 in just a few years. So really in my own head is my worst enemy in most cases.
Yeah. And no, that's normal because that's what most people say. Most people say, my own mindset, my own negative thinking mindset is what's been my hardest thing. So let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk about your biggest external obstacle, things not in your head or in your control. What's been your biggest external obstacles?
Biggest external obstacles is really just, I think coronavirus has honestly been my biggest one so far.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Really good one. Because now we're having a lot of people who are, none of my clients or myself are an economist, but I kind of feel like this is going to swing back around. This is like a 60 to 90 day problem, not a several year long or even a year long problem. I'm not an expert, but that's kind of what I feel like from what I'm seeing. And, we get a lot of people who are panic selling right now because they think that it's going to, they're never going to be able to sell their property before they lose it, which I don't think is going to be an issue. And, people falling out of contract because they don't know what's going to happen with their jobs. They're uncertain about their money. So this has definitely been the biggest external obstacle so far. And I think that's going to be the case for just about everybody in any industry at the moment.
Well, thank you for being transparent about that, because that is absolutely the thing. I mean, a lot of deals are falling apart. A lot of people are backing away because they're just scared. They don't know what's coming. This is a very scary, strange time that a lot of people, too many to be honest, are in their own head looking at this as an obstacle. And that fear is what's going to stop them from the opportunities that this is going to create. And for you, I mean, I'm sure you're looking at it saying, wow, this is actually, it sucks right now, but eventually, like some of those properties that we wanted to buy, the price of them properties are going to come down, and we're going to be able to buy these, for a lot less than we could have even 3 months ago or 2 months ago. And that's going to be great for you guys. I mean, if you're looking to add doors, this is the time to push the pedal down and go for it.
Yeah. And what I'm kind of thinking is that with the regional drivable vacation rental markets is that, the beginning of summer, as things start to open back up, people are going to be so sick of being cooped up that we're going to see some of our highest prices per night that we've maybe ever seen. So as far as buying, for a buyer who does have their cash reserves in place and isn't concerned necessarily with their financials at the moment, now's a really good time to get some deals, because even at the same time that buyers are scared and backing out of contracts, sellers are scared and wondering if they're going to be able to get another one. So they're willing to be more negotiable at the moment than they have been, than they were even a month ago.
I couldn't agree with that more. I think people are just sick and tired of being home. And I think we're not getting out of our houses anytime soon. That's for sure, because they've given us no signs of when that's going to happen. So I think you're right. I think when this is done, your phone's going to ring off the hook, and you're going to be able to really kind of drive that price up because of supply and demand, and people just need a break. And there's no question about that. I mean, I feel like I'm trapped in this 8,000 square foot office. I'm the only one here. All my staff is working remotely. Some days I'm just like, this really sucks. No interaction with anybody. Then you go home and, it's nice to be with your family. But I think a lot of families are like, yeah, that was nice for the last month. Now I'm kind of like, all right, just you stay in your room and I'll stay over here. So, but it in a positive light, it's been a really good bonding. A lot of people are getting back to, religion and actually, getting back to some core values that I think we got away from. So I think a lot of good things came from this. And I think there's going to be a lot more good things that come out of this. Mm-hmm. So if anyone would want to learn more about what you do, or learn more about, maybe doing some short-term or long-term vacation rentals in the areas, how would they go about finding out, what you do, or get a hold of you?
The ShortTermShop.com, my website, is the best way to do that. There's a button right front and center that says schedule a call with me, and that'll go straight to my calendar, and we'll get going.
Fantastic. Well, this has been really a breath of fresh air, because this is something we haven't done yet. Nobody's really ever talked about this, especially more from the realtor side, and how you're doing it as an added value. Like the whole time I'm talking, I'm like, I wonder what she charges for that. And you're just like, nope, this is just what we provide for our clients that are working with us. And I commend you for that, because that's very rare that someone's willing to do that much for nothing extra other than just provide added value. So that's great. And all of you watching this episode, if you have interest, make sure you guys reach out to Avery at the ShortTermShop.com and check out what she's doing. And back to what I was saying earlier with, becoming a rebel banker, and on this journey, whatever stage you're at, whether you're at the beginning, the middle, or you're just a seasoned investor, there's never, ever a time where you can't learn more. So grab a copy. Our newest book just came out, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. Grab a copy of that book, and that will teach you what wealthy and the uber wealthy do with their money, especially right now. One of the things that you'd learn by diving into that or taking part in our community called Money School TV is you'd learn what the wealthy are doing right now is all opportunists. They're really, really looking for opportunities, and they're in a position to do that. Wouldn't you like to know exactly what the wealthy know and why they're treating this very different than the average person is? Well, the difference is knowledge. They have that level of knowledge. So if you guys want to learn more about our community, MSTV, go to moneyschoolrei.com/TV and join the movement and check it all out, because it is honestly growing leaps and bounds, and it's changing people's lives financially, because learning how money really works will change your life, and taking action on it will change not just your life, change your future life, period. So thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Real Estate Money School. And Avery, I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Bye, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode.